Greetings, everyone. This is the Gardening Snail of Livingston, California, just trying to keep the community informed and local government as honest as possible. In this video, we will do a brief overview of the agenda and the agenda packet for the February 7th, 2023 special and regular City Council meetings. Because this is an agenda packet of 172 pages, I will not be reading all of them, only pulling out and highlighting sections you might think were the most relevant to you. There are two meetings scheduled for February 7th, a special meeting that begins at 5 p.m. and will not be live streamed, and a regular meeting at 7 p.m. that will be live streamed. Under closed session for the special meeting, public employment interim city manager, potential litigation 2 cases, and existing litigation with the former city manager Jose Ramirez. The regular meeting is scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. and will be streamed on YouTube Live. Public comments can be submitted via email at citycouncil@livingstoncity.com. Comments must be received by 2 p.m. on the day of the City Council meeting in order for them to be distributed to the Council prior to consideration of the matter. You will need to provide meeting date, item number, name, email, and comment. Please limit to 300 words or 3 minutes. Please include public comment in the subject for the email. Written comments will not be read aloud at the meeting, but will be reported as received for the record. If you do not receive an acknowledgement of receipt by 4 p.m., please call the City Clerk's office at 209-394-8041, extension 121. But note, this technology is not a guaranteed method. On the agenda after the call to order is citizens' comments, which allows members of the public to address the City Council on items not already on the agenda. There is one presentation. After that are the announcements and reports. This shows the commissions and committees council members are a part of and may report about. Up next is the consent agenda, which is usually enacted by one vote unless separate action is requested by the city manager or city council member for a particular item or items. Items number 2 and 3 are regular and routine. Item 4 is about a replacement well project. This well is located close to Foster Farms and has a TCP treatment system. Item 5 is about staffing changes, removing one corporal position in the police department and replacing it with a police officer position. Item 6 is about adding one position for a wastewater operator 1. Item 7 is the installation of fiber optics to city-owned facilities to be provided by Spectrum. Under public hearings, there is the first reading of an ordinance amending the Livingston Municipal Code for the city manager position. Under discussion and potential action items are Item 9, discussion and direction on water restrictions. Item 10, memorandum of understanding between Merced County and the City of Livingston for fire protection and augmenting staffing. Item 11, approving the job description and employment agreement for the position of Public Works Director between the City of Livingston and Anthony Chavarria. And item 12, approving an employment agreement for the position of Interim City Manager between the City of Livingston and Christopher Lopez. Followed by administering the oath of office to the appointed Interim City Manager, council direction on future agenda items, and adjournment. We're going to get into some of the details from staff reports. I'm only picking out a few highlights for this video. Beginning with the well number 8 project. This is a $3,621,000 project needed because the existing well number 8 needs to be replaced. It's expected to be funded by a combination of American Rescue Plan money and TCP settlement funds. About removing one corporal position and replacing with a police officer. That is due to an internal promotion of a police corporal to police sergeant. The chief of police is recommending to remove one corporal position and replace it with a police officer position as part of the budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023, which is supposed to result in a reduction in the overall salary and benefits for the police department's budget. Due to staffing recommendations and to better support the needs of the water wastewater operations, Public Works Management recommends increasing its headcount by adding one position. The fiscal impact would be an additional estimated $115,518. Installation of fiber optics. The City of Livingston was awarded $3.5 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds and has already spent or allocated the funds as follows. Water well number 12, employee stipends, a ripper tractor, and wastewater repairs. On September 6, 2022, staff requested Council provide direction on the use of the remainder ARPA funds, totaling an estimated balance of $588,521. It was recommended that staff investigate costs to install fiber optics to city-owned facilities to prevent interruptions of internet service. Here you can see the proposals for the installation and ongoing monthly service costs. The total first-year cost for installation and monthly fees to be funded by using American Rescue Plan Act funds. Under fiscal impact, it states there is no fiscal impact as the funds are already budgeted in Fund 1115, the Revenue Stabilization Fund. Here we go with the amending of the Livingston Municipal Code for the city manager position. The proposed ordinance will restructure portions of the code which govern the role and responsibilities of the city manager. Specifically, the proposed ordinance will revise the code as follows. And as always, the devil's in the details. Distinguish general responsibilities from decision-making powers, clarify day-to-day responsibilities, state the bond requirement, include a new section related to eligibility of a former council member to hold the office of city manager. I wonder who wanted that one in. Compensation and reimbursement of costs incurred on the city's behalf, authorizing the appointment of an acting city manager by the city manager or the city council. Clarify the provisions pertaining to the removal of a city manager by a majority vote of the city council. Clarify? More like wholesale revisions to that section. Now let's look at some of the details and proposed additions and strikeouts. Here we'll start with some additions. This section looks like it's aimed at the city council itself. City manager shall deal with the management and administration of city services, and individual members of the city council shall only deal with the administrative services of the city through the city manager, unless it is for the purposes of general inquiry. In no event shall action be taken after completion of the inquiry by an individual member without full city council approval. No individual member of the council shall give orders to the city manager or any subordinate of the city manager. The city manager shall take his orders and instructions from the council only when sitting in a duly held meeting of the council. The provisions of this section shall not be construed to prevent any council member from discussing matters of the city with the city manager. Here we have the additions about appoint, dismiss officers and employees, appoint to acting capacity, and purchases. Pause to read at your leisure. More additions. Reorganization of office positions and departments, recommendation of adoption of laws, and administrative claim settlement. Proper administration and management of all other city affairs, attending council meetings. Preparing financial reports, annual budget and capital programs, investigation into city affairs, and complaints concerning administration of city government. Now that we've looked at some additions, let's look at some strikeouts, beginning with striking out the 30-day written notice of intention to remove the city manager. Now, I was once told that once upon a time, the number of votes required to remove a city manager was increased from 3 to 4. I guess the code never got updated for that. The part about requiring a hearing within 7 days is stricken out. Allowing the city manager to present grounds of opposition to removal is stricken out. The part about not removing a city manager within a period of 90 days succeeding any general municipal election held in the city in which a member of the city council is elected is stricken out. Moving on to additions. The City Council and its sole discretion may remove the city manager by a 3-member vote. And yet I remember that once upon a time, because it was so hard to hire and hang on to a city manager, that was increased to 4, but I guess it never made it into the code. The City Council shall provide a statement for reasons for the removal. No city council member shall be eligible for appointment as city manager during the term for which he or she shall have been elected or appointed, nor within 1 year after the expiration of his or her term. Wait, what? I wonder where that came from. Then there are additions about compensation and reimbursement for sums incurred by him or her in the performance of his or her duties, or incurred while traveling on business pertaining to the city. And in the event of an extended absence or disability of the city manager, he or she shall designate an officer or employee of the city to serve as the administrative head of the city for the duration of the absence. In the event of failure to make such designation, or upon removal of the city manager, the city council may designate some duly qualified person to perform the duties of the city manager. Now we're going to be moving on with the approval of fire services agreement and establishment of a fire commission. Staff presented a draft memorandum of understanding on September 20th, 2022 at a regular city council meeting. Council requested some changes. Those changes include language about termination, indemnity, and the Volunteers Association. Recommendation is to enter into the Memorandum of Understanding and to augment staffing for Fire Station 96. Staff also seeks direction on the establishment of a fire commission. Under fiscal impact, the county is to administer the property tax portion allocated to fire services. The increased staffing costs will be funded through the Community Facilities District 2005-1. With no impact to the general fund for fiscal year 22-23, future costs will be incorporated within the operational budget. I guess we'll have to see if there are any future impacts to the general fund or not. Getting into the home stretch on this agenda packet, the employment agreement for the position of Public Works Director between the city and Anthony Chavarria. The city of Livingston has been without a Public Works Director since September of 2021. That's barely 2 months after the city manager was terminated, by the way. Mr. Chavarria previously held the Public Works Director position, he has expressed interest in returning as the Public Works Director. Interesting how things change, isn't it? Finally, towards the very end of a dense agenda packet, we come to the employment agreement between the city of Livingston and Christopher Lopez for the position of interim city manager. The term of agreement shall continue unless and until the city council or interim city manager terminate the agreement pursuant to the termination, severance, and resignation provisions of the contract. Of course, I looked through the contract. I found the termination part. I found the resignation part, but I didn't find the severance part. Maybe I'm missing something. Here's the part about voluntary resignation. Read at your leisure. On with the termination by the City Council. The City Council may terminate this agreement and remove employee from his position at any time following 5 days written notice with or without cause by a 3/5 vote of the entire City Council. If employee's termination is based on charges of misconduct that publicly stigmatizes employee's reputation or impairs his ability to earn a living or might damage his standing in a community, employee may, within 5 business days of the City Council's notice to employee of the intent to terminate employee's employment, make a written request for a name-clearing hearing. The name-clearing hearing is solely to provide employee the opportunity to clear his name. If the City Council determines that the allegations are not supported, a decision shall be issued to reflect that employee's termination was without fault, but they can still let him go anyway. If you like what I do here, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Facebook. If you don't, well, what can I tell you? Editorial content and historical recollections are my own as a resident of Livingston and City Council watcher since at least 2007, and does not represent the views and opinions of the City Council or the City of Livingston.